Welcome back, Hearthstone fans, to the Tespa Collegiate Series, where we just saw Shawnee take down Queen's U and send themselves over to that live championship over in Santa Ana in a couple of weeks. Some exciting stuff happening. I'm Waddles. I'm Robbie Waddles-Lang. Over with me still is Jonathan Galestrom-Owsley. And we are going to take a quick look here now that we're out of the North region. We've been through the East region earlier in the day. We got to take a look at our next bracket. That's going to be the South region. We've got UH Victoria versus UT San Antonio up first. And we did have a Duke up on the graphic earlier. That was just a minor team correction. And it is just going to be UT San Antonio versus UH Victoria coming up first. And then after that, we're going to see the University of Florida versus Chapel Hill.
Yeah, very exciting here. Moving down to the South bracket, very exciting series over the course of today. A lot of long games, a lot of short games, and just a lot of variety in the different types of decks that people are bringing. It's so exciting just seeing everyone, the variety of stuff that Journey to Ungoro has brought to the table here at the Tespa Collegiate Series.
Yeah, so we are going to have to see. I mean, the deck diversity is really the name of the game for this whole tournament. I mean, we've seen a whole lot of different things happening. We've seen I guess we can just take a look at these classes here because all of them have a bunch of different variants. We've got a few different variants of that Priest, Warrior, and Shaman as well. So a lot of representation here. Yeah,
a lot of decks across the table. University of Houston Victoria bringing that Priest, something that we really haven't seen all too much of. Also bringing the Warlock, the Warrior, and the Shaman. While over here on the University of Texas of San Antonio, they're bringing the Hunter, which we've seen in a couple teams bring over the course of today. The Warrior, that Rogue, and the Shaman as well. The Shaman is really the deck for me to be looking at too. Elemental Shaman got a lot of hype going into the Journey to Ungoro, and it's been performing well, but falling a little short of the standard I think people were setting for it.
Yeah, definitely. We were hyping that up a lot going into this, but we're going to take a look at the University of Houston Victoria roster. We've got River Dragon, Slimmer, and I'm going to take a shot at this. Doifree Tenyu. That's about the best I'm going to do with that. We got some computer science from the first two, and Doifree Tenyu, he's going into criminal justice. Not one I have seen a whole lot. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, sounds pretty cool. We got a lot of, technical backgrounds, and here we have them on the screen looking pretty relaxed, pretty ready for their match, going to... be really excited to see what they have to bring to the table.
Doifree Tenyu with, I believe that's the man bun there, looking very nice. Got some good hair, and these guys are looking quite ready to be going into this match. Of course, it is a very important match for them all to be considering. And over on the side of University of Texas San Antonio, we've got Yokians, Celestnian, and Sigurd. Another computer science major over there on Sigurd, and some business, and then just computer science and mathematics, so a bit of a dual discipline.
Yeah, I'm really loving the pictures right here on these players. Just, a lot of personality really showing from all of the player pictures right here.
Yep, Sigurd, we can tell he probably plays guitar, or he at least really enjoys posing with them and making people think that he can play guitar. So that's something that a lot of people do like doing. It looks like they may be... Nope, we got that third guy in there. So this is going to be a full complement from both teams, and that is going to be very exciting to see for us. So two Texas teams trying to figure out who is going to be the first representative from the South region to the live championships. This is going to be an exciting brawl fest, I believe. And, we're going to get our first clue as to how this match will be going right about now. We've got the Self Bands, University of Houston Victoria, going to take out that Shaman, which, as you said, has been a little lackluster maybe, more so than we were expecting. And University of Texas San Antonio taking out that Rogue.
Yeah, as we said, over the course of this weekend and the top 64 bracket, the teams were able to choose their classes, and they have to remain with those classes over the course of this weekend. However, they can switch up their deck list if they need to between the round of 64, round of 32, and round of 16. So a lot of these people bringing Shaman, thinking Shaman was going to be really, really solid. And, that Shaman ban right there might just speak to, we thought it would be really solid, and we just weren't having the results that we were expecting out of that class.
Yeah, and, we've seen a lot of Elemental Shaman, but... maybe some of these decks are starting to tech towards the aggro variant. The big deal with that aggro variant, why we're not seeing it so often, is because, of course, we lost Tunnel Trog and Totem Golem. What better early game can you get for the Shaman? And so their early game is definitely weak in comparison. But look at this. We have maybe I believe this is the first instance, a Purify Priest. And we're going to have to see, is this a full Purify Priest, or is he running some sort of a weird... deck where you just happen to throw Purify in?
All right, this is really awesome here. We have Purify Priest, and we have the Shaman list coming out with the Murlocs. Haven't seen a ton of that. I really haven't seen a ton of either of those lists coming out here. So unite the Murlocs here for UT San Antonio, and we'll have to see. Silence Priest, I am so excited to see this.
Oh my goodness. So yeah, what is likely to be that Silence Priest Witch? We've played that quite a bit. It feels a lot like Handlock, but in some instances it actually feels a little bit better. But the story of this match, we have to see how this Unite the Murlocs is going to come together. This is one of my favorite quests, just thematically. You know, it's these guys going into a swamp. Finley Murgleton is there trying to recruit his brethren and summon wake up the overlord of Megafin and to help them carry that through.
Finley, unfortunately, moving over to the wild side of things, so we won't be seeing here in our adventure through Un'Goro.
Just in the card art.
There we have it on the side. The card that we all know and love from that League of Explorers.
Thank you, production.
But we'll have to see if they are able to get Megafin, or as some of us like to call it, Big Fin, the Chinese translation to it. So we'll have to see if that comes into play later down the road. UH Victoria keeping that Northshire Cleric in the start, and that's going to match up a lot against a lot of the early board that the Murloc Shaman will be able to bring.
So obviously, UT San Antonio has the ability to Lightning Bolt that Northshire Cleric, but Lightning Bolt early on in the game has always felt a little wonky as a Shaman, even back when in the old aggro Shaman, because you just mess up your turn 2 and even maybe your turn 3 pretty badly. So they are going to coin it out and be sitting on that 2 mana next turn. Fortunately, their cards in this deck are pretty cheap, so that won't really impact their turn number 3.
And Humongous Razor Leaf hitting the board, and you see the player came over and you see San Antonio, and they're just they were a little surprised when that came down. The look of curiosity came across their face for a second there, but they're going to continue putting down the pressure. That's going to be the second Bluegill Warrior going face, and we look over at UH Victoria's hand, and that is going to be a Silence and a Purify.
Oh my goodness. So that is a lot of tools for them to be thrown down here. Purify is that card that was introduced last set that got absolutely trashed on by the community. Silence a friendly minion and draw a card, and it didn't seem like there was a lot of support for it last set. It didn't seem like there was a lot of opportunity for decks to include it, but in this set, there's a lot of these big, beefy minions that may just bring it back to life.
Yeah, Eerie Statue was the card of note from before. 4 mana, 7/7, can't attack unless it's the only minion on the board. There we go. You see that on the side. That rotating out with League of Explorers leaving, but Humongous Razor Leaf, the 3 mana, 4/8 can't attack, taking its place, and getting that down 1 mana sooner, being able to combo that, at the turn after your Ancient Watcher, really brings the deck together. And the other card I wanted to mention potentially that we might see in this game is Shadow Visions. And that is a card that just adds consistency to the Purify Priest, as it lets you find your silence effects and Shadow Word Pains and Shadow Word Deaths that much more easily.
Right, so normally in the Silence Priest you can only fit in 2 0-mana Silence cards and then the 2 Purifies, but that Shadow Visions brings that number quite up a bit, at least to a maximum of +2. And I don't really expect to see anything like a Mass Dispel here, but that could be a weird little tech in some sort of a Silence Priest too. So Finja coming onto the board is going to be a little interesting. I do believe that when Finja brings Murlocs onto the board, that counts as summoning, so that should count towards that quest. And this we should touch a little bit on the difference between summoning and playing, because most of the quests in this game right now are around playing cards, but there are a select few that are specifically around summoning. I believe that's the Shaman, the Druid, and is that the... I'm forgetting the last one right now, but the important thing is
Priest.
that I was leaning there, but... So the Shaman, all they have to do is get those Murlocs on the board. That Call in the Finishers, that 4 mana spell that summons 4 1/1 Murlocs, absolutely amazing for getting this quest done.
Ooh, Murloc Warleader coming into the hand here, and there we see the Call of the Finishers on the side, a card we're very much expecting to see in the list here for UT San Antonio. But Murloc Warleader coming into the hand here, and that's going to make Finja being able to trade very cleanly, and even just the Grimscale Oracle as well, and the Lightning Bolt. There's a lot of ways to maneuver the health on the minions for UH Victoria's side and get valuable trades with the Finja. And then we'll just have to see what Murlocs come off the side.
Right.
Finja, not as effective as it was prior to the journey to Un'Goro, because these decks are running a lot of lower valued minions, or lower value Murlocs. You see the Cold Light Seers, this the Rockpool Hunter.
Right.
Very cool new card, but it's not the explosive bluegill into Murloc War Leader that we had been seeing before.
Right. When the old Finja package, since Murlocs weren't very good, you had Finja and then 4 Murlocs that were considered playable. So that's all you saw in any deck. But with this inclusion of the Shaman Quest, this list has gotten quite large in terms of the amount of Murlocs they're throwing in. So. We talked a lot about that Murloc Shaman, but we have to remember, too, that we have a brand new Priest deck that we're trying out here, too. And I mentioned before, it's going to play a little similarly to that Handlock, which we saw earlier today. So that's going to give us a nice frame of reference. It's get some big minions onto the board, turns 3 and 4, try to taunt them up, or even the cool part about the Priest is you have the consistency that you don't need the Defenders or the Sun Fury to make these creatures actually help, because you have all these silence effects that just turn them into massively overstated minions.
Yeah, UH Victoria finding 4 of their silence effects early, but none of their taunts. They found both of those 0 mana silence, 1 Purify, and one of the Cabal 5 mana 5/5 silences. So that will allow them to get value out of these humongous Razor Leafs, but they really need to be able to taunt up and stop the aggression from UT San Antonio. However, we have 2 Murlocs remaining to complete the quest, in which case Megafin will be coming online, and he will fill your entire hand with Murlocs.
And there we go.
That will do it. The Murloc Titan Hunter will allow Megafin to enter the hand. Unfortunately for them, that overloaded mana crystal will make sure that they cannot play Megafin this turn.
Yep, so very likely just going to empty the hand here, because remember, what does Megafin do? It fills your hand with Murloc. So you are going, if you can't play any of the cards that turn, you will overdraw from your deck 1, but you get probably 8 to 10 free Murlocs, and so we have to touch a little bit on the potential of this quest reward, because it's big. It feels very similar to the Hunter quest, but you get immediate value from all the cards you get in your hand. The drawback is that it's not as consistent. You're not drawing 3/2 Raptors that draw a card. You're drawing, or you're seeing Murlocs that could be just more Tide Hunters, 2/1s and 1/1s.
Yeah, the minions are a lot lower value than the Hunter quest, but you get the consistency of getting them all in your hand all at once. So we'll have to see Megafin coming onto the board next turn and see what variety and flavor of Murlocs Megafin fills the hand with. But over here on UH Victoria's side, they have finally picked up a taunt. That Sun Fury Protector will do massive wonders, and Divine Spirit here,
my goodness,
coming into the Purify Priest. So that is one route to take with it, and one that I really, really enjoy, being able to double the health of a minion, and a card that we really don't see all too often in competitive style play. But that is going to be one humongous Razor Leaf being taunted up in the next couple turns here.
I can't imagine that there's room for a Hex in UT San Antonio's deck either. So this is going to be a 4/18 that after that Sun Fury comes down, they are just going to have to push through. That's almost a whole nother champion. Oh no, a whole nother hero that they have to kill before they even move on. This is like the heroic mode of fighting Prince Malchezaar. You got that ogre lady that you got to take out first, and this is what this feels like.
And here we go, Megafin hitting the board, filling our hand with Murlocs, and we're going to see some Warlock Murlocs, as well as the Paladin Hydrologist Murloc. So getting a couple extra Murlocs from those other classes could really help out. But anything in this hand that really kind of stands out to you here?
Yeah, 2 Grimscale Chums, which are those 1 mana Paladin Murlocs, which will buff a random Murloc in your hand. So hey, you're sitting on a hand of what we were calling, not necessarily super high value minions, but those Grimscale Chums going to add just a little bit. And the whole point of this quest is the fact that, you get the one-time burst of cards, and between that and your early aggression, you just need to get the game over. If you go past the point where this hand of Murlocs runs out now, you're in some deep trouble. So another thing to note is that they actually didn't get any buff Murlocs, so we didn't see any Murloc War Leaders coming into the hand. We didn't see any of those Cold Light Seers, those cards that really add value to the Murlocs that you're putting on the board and making them even better. Oh boy, this is...
That Faceless Shambler and the Sun Fury Protector, we are going to have quite the large array of taunts on the board here for UH Victoria. 36 health worth of taunt on the board, and again, barring them finding room for a Hex in this deck, which I don't see happening, or a Devolve, that could do it as well, but
this deck does not usually have room for those kinds of cards, and so this is going to be 36 health of taunt that UT San Antonio, UH Victoria put it up, but UT San Antonio has to find a way through this. This is just crazy.
Yeah, no Shadow or Death to speak of to deal with Megafin, but more than enough taunts to stall that out for a couple turns at the very least. So I have to imagine they're going to be looking for that Inner Fire to combo with these two giant healthy minions, bring their attack up to equal to whatever their health is. There we have it on the side. 1 mana, change a minion's attack to equal it to its health. That will make either the Humongous Razor Leaf or the Faceless Shambler an 18/18 minion, and just one poke from that to the face will end the game here. So that is the card they are looking for, and they have a couple turns to try to find it.
And, you know, even if they don't find it, it seems like they're in a pretty great position to close out this game, because I do not see a way for UT San Antonio to do 36 damage before they take 12 themselves. That just seems almost literally impossible to me at this point. So, yeah, that's oh my goodness.
The one card that comes to mind would be a Bloodlust off the top. If they spend this entire turn flooding their board and UH Victoria doesn't take certain value trades, this game could be, could turn around very, very quickly. So we'll have to see how UH Victoria decides to combat this board of Murlocs here. And just Murlocs after Murlocs, the flood continues. Redemption coming down, Noble Sacrifice coming down as well from that first Hydrologist. Right. So that will be kind of difficult to get through here for UH Victoria.
And the Redemption will likely be going on that 1/1 taunt minion, which is going to do some nice, well, just a little bit of damage mitigation for UT San Antonio, getting 2 taunts there. The second Divine Spirit has made its way into UH Victoria's hand, and it makes me wonder how many Inner Fires they are running, because Inner Fire is a card that you only see Divine Spirit and Inner Fire played when they're played together in these decks, because obviously the combo is just freaking amazing with all of the high health targets that Priest has. It's basically kind of like that Priest Shadow Flame I was alluding to earlier. Kind of, it's that scale of powerful. And so, a lot of times, what I guess I'll say I feel like doing is running 2 Divine Spirits, but then just the 1 Inner Fire, because the 1 Inner Fire, or 2 Inner Fires can be dead sometimes in your hand.
So Divine Spirit going to go on this Facial Samurai, bringing it to a total of 36 health that UT San Antonio has to get through with just a board of Murlocs. And UH Victoria looking in a very dominant position this game.
Yeah, I think that is pretty safe to say. And just to add insult to injury, they silenced up that 1/1 taunt minion, so they don't even have to trade into that and let that be redeemed. Discover a Murloc, Corrupted Seer. Great, you get some AoE, and that's definitely an option for you, but 40 health of taunt. This deck did the Priest Quest better than the Priest Quest did the Priest Quest.
Yeah, we have Awaken the Makers, the Priest Quest, you get that reward, set your health to 40. Well, why not just put a 40 health taunt on the board when your opponent is not running a Silence or a Hex?
Apparently.
So very, very strong against these aggressive decks, and I really like not only the variety, but the choice to bring this deck in this format here.
Yeah, this is very interesting. I have to imagine that this was not the deck they started out with yesterday. It could have been. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure, but this seems to me like a read of how the tournament went yesterday, and saying, we've seen a lot of these decks maybe faltering a little bit in the early game. If we can just push really hard with this board flood and then into Big Fin, a lot of times that turns into big win for us.
So they were looking for the taunt totem out there, did not get it, and that will be game number 1, going over to that Silence Priest.
All right, UH Victoria feeling pretty good about that first win. They're grabbing that, the unorthodox deck. We brought it up, I think, yesterday as a deck we were looking out for, because we were having a lot of fun with it on the ladder, but we haven't seen a whole lot of it, and so I'm very glad to see that it is being represented here at the Tespa Collegiate Series.
Yeah, man, I'm absolutely loving it. Like we said yesterday on broadcast, Purify Priest, the deck that I've been experimenting the most with, and also a deck that just has been seeing a little bit more play as the days progress on the ladder. So really excited to see that come out here and just really happy that I got a win.
Yeah, and we are going to get to take a look at this Priest deck to see exactly the kind of cards they threw in there. They are running double Inner Fire, so that's that question answered. But some interesting cards in here. We've got that Cabal Song Stealer, another Silence plus a body. It's going to be nice in there. The Humongous Razor Leafs are nice, but that Hosen Healer, let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, that's a card that really caught my eye there, the second card in the middle. 4 mana, 2/6, battle cry, restore a minion to full health. That's a card that we saw come out with the Mean Streets of Gadgetzin, and a card that really didn't see a whole lot of play. But we saw, like, when you have a 36 health taunt on the board and your opponent chips halfway through it, if they don't have that Hex or that Silence or that hard removal, Hosen Healer just hails it back to full, and then you get a nice Inner Fire, and then just the game is kind of just snowballs out of control from there. So I really like the inclusion of that tech card. I'm really happy to see these guys bring this out. And as I said, Journey to Un'Goro has brought so much variety, and it's just so much fun to see.
Oh my gosh, the Divine Spirit plus the Hosen Healer is just the one-off Hosen Healer, but can you imagine, if they had UT San Antonio had managed to somehow get that 28 health of taunt down to, say, 10, and all of a sudden it just jumps right back up to 30. Oh, great.
Yeah, little mini Reno boost of health to that taunt there. So that will be the Purify Priest out and gotten the win for University of Houston Victoria. And so we have the Warlock and the Warrior remaining. And University of Texas San Antonio going to have to figure out, are they going to stick with the Murloc Shaman, or are they going to move to something else?
And the question for UT San Antonio for me is, what is that Warrior deck? Because the Rogue, Shaman, Warrior, Hunter list, to me, bringing all 4 of those, says full aggro lineup, at least as a possibility. And so I'm kind of expecting the Pirate Warrior and I guess mid-range Hunter, because we haven't seen really any Quest Hunters making any splashes at all.
Yeah, no, the quests for Hunter, very, very hyped up, and hasn't really seen a lot of play on the ladder. People going more towards that mid-range Hunter and more aggressive Hunter lists.
Yeah.
So as you said, we'll have to see. We saw a lot of Taunt Control Warrior yesterday, and some of these teams have been deciding to switch it up to the more consistent Pirate Warrior list. Just this very strong deck at the end of the last meta before the standard rotation rolled out. Didn't really lose a whole lot, so wouldn't be surprised to see it there.
Absolutely not. So we are going to have to pay attention as to which of those versions that we see in this match. But for now, we are going to see UT San Antonio bring out that Hunter list. We're going to see exactly what is in there. And UH Victoria, I don't know what this deck is.
It's most likely going to be the Pirate Warrior. We see that in Azaz's first mate. We see the Arcanate Reaper, and the Bittertide Hydra. So Bittertide Hydra, one of those newer cards. We did say that Pirate Warrior didn't lose a whole lot. The one that we did say that it lost was going to be that Sir Finley Murgleton, and the potential bash that people were running. So Bittertide Hydra and Glacial Shard, some of those cards that people have been teching into the decks from the new set to try to fill out those small little gaps.
So it seems to me that Bittertide Hydra inclusion is kind of trying to take on the role that the Aggro Shaman left in its wake. It basically, it's no 4-mana 7/7, but it is really, really close. And a lot of times it is going to function largely the same.
Yeah, 4-mana 7/7, 5-mana 8/8. It doesn't overload you, but it does have that drawback where when it takes damage, it will damage you for 3 per damage that it takes. So it does have that downside. Certain counters like Volcano could really, take advantage of that weakness.
Yeah.
However, in most matchups, things like Arcane Missiles and those ping effects don't really have as much of an impact. So the Bittertide Hydra has proven to be a very, very strong inclusion in a lot of these aggressive decks.
See a couple of early drops in both of the hands here. UH Victoria with both N'Zoth's first mate going to get a lot of value out of some early weapon swings and basically establish some pretty solid board control in the first couple turns here. Of course, UT San Antonio has only taken 1 turn, so that helps.
Yeah, UH Victoria, a very strong presence on the board, double N'Zoth's first mate. Decided to float that mana and hold on to the upgrade just in case of the potential acidic Swamp Ooze coming out here for that mid-range Hunter. But mid-range Hunter, looking down at the list, we see they have a pretty good curve themselves. Kindly Grandmother, Rat Pack, they had the Fiery Bat on turn 1, they have the Houndmaster, and the Animal Companion as well. And then one of the kind of curious cards that I'm looking at is that Stampede. A new card from the Journey to Un'Goro, and a great refill mechanic for the Hunter, a card that has, or a deck, or a class that has historically not had a lot of card draw. And Stampede is a great card to fill that card generation slot.
Yeah, very similar to a couple sets ago, Yogg and Load, Lock and Load, of course, that 2-mana one that every time you play a Hunter, every time you play a spell, you get a Hunter spell back.
Hunter class card. Big difference there.
Oh, that is a very big difference.
So the nice thing about Stampede is that it gives you a minion back, whereas Lock and Load, the downside is that was what it was 1 more mana, but it could give you minions as well.
Right.
So Stampede, a much more consistent card in that regard. But going to throw down the Kindly Grandmother instead of coining out one of these 3-drops, that will make it very likely that they'll be able to coin out the Houndmaster on the following turn.
Yeah.
But we may just see here UH Victoria decide to trade into it, upgrade their weapon, drop down that Dread Corsair, and trade into the token that comes off the Kindly Grandmother as well.
Yeah, a lot of times when you're playing against the Hunter and you know it's not the Quest Hunter, it's going to be some sort of a mid-range or a face Hunter. You're looking out for that Houndmaster, and that's always in the back of your mind because it is such a giant board swing if they're able to land that on a beast. They get +2/2 and taunt, and it's a solid body on its own already. So this is definitely at the forefront of UH Victoria's mind. They full trade into that Kindly Grandmother and make sure there is no chance for that Coin Houndmaster to come out, at least this turn.
Yeah, no burn damage in the hand for UH Victoria too, so they really want to solidify their presence on the board, be able to drop that Core Chron Elite on curve on an empty board, and make UC San Antonio either have to burn something like a kill command or a charge off of an Eagle Horn Bow to be able to deal with that. Mortal Strike coming into their hand, and that will play an important role in the next couple turns if they decide to turn the aggression away from the sticky rat that UT San Antonio just placed on the board and decide to go full aggression to the face.
The cool thing about Mortal Strike as well is that we don't often see games where the Hunter is able to burst the Pirate Warrior down from 13 straight to 0. So I feel that there's a decent chance that that Mortal Strike is activated at some point for that extra 2 damage. Of course, the Warrior has to be 12 health or under, and that Mortal Strike goes from 4 damage up to 6, which is a very, very efficient spell card once it gets up to there.
So we see UH Victoria going for the full trade on the Dirty Rat, continually denying the value off of that Houndmaster that we see that is in UT San Antonio's hand. Going to develop the Core Chron Elite alongside that. And like we said, major options for the Hunter to be able to clear that with no board are going to be that Eagle Horn Bow, which you're taking the damage to face again anyway, Kill Command, which is not in the hand, and the 1 in 3 chance to get Huffer off of that Animal Companion. And it looks like that's what they're going to be hovering right here.
Misha feels pretty decent as well. It's just you really want to avoid Leok here. Okay, they grabbed Huffer, so definitely the best of the options because you take the trade into your own hands. Misha was going to trade the same exact anyway, so making sure that you get that minion off the board before any shenanigans come through from UH Victoria's hand.
So UT San Antonio choosing to take the Pirate off the board. However, UH Victoria drawing that Bloodsail Cultist and is going to be able to combo that with the Dread Corsair that they have left in their hand over from last turn and the turn prior. You
know, this hook started off pretty rusty, Galestrom, but UH Victoria has just spent turn after turn polishing it up, and at this point, it's a 3-5 over the course of this. It didn't get all of those procs on the 3 attack, but what a value bomb in that weapon that they were able to pull off with just upgrade after upgrade.
Yeah, no, and this is going to look like it's going to be the game here for UH Victoria. UT San Antonio, their best option right here would be to Fiery Bat into the Houndmaster, get some semblance of taunt on the board. They're going to Stampede, see what they can find, if they can find anything better. We'll have to see what it drops off. A Weasel Tunneler, a fun card, but not going to quite save them in this situation. And, you know, for those of you who haven't seen Weasel Tunneler in competitive play at all, we have a 1-mana 1/1 Death Rattle. Shuffle this minion into your opponent's deck.
Yep, kind of like a... if you get both of them, it works very well against Reno decks, kind of like Beneath the Grounds does, but in regular decks, it's just very, very annoying when you dead draw that 1/1 Weasel. But that is going to be UH Victoria up to a 2-0 lead in this series, 1 game away from moving on to the live championships in Santa Ana. The top 8 is calling their name, and UT San Antonio only has a couple chances, 1 chance really, to stop this and get the momentum back in their favor. Yeah, so we have, looking at the classes, University of Houston Victoria has that Warlock remaining. UT San Antonio still has to get a win with both that Murloc Shaman and the mid-range Hunter, and we saw the mid-range Hunter kind of flounder a little bit there, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, Hunter got a couple of cool new tools, but one of the reasons Hunter was played as little as it was, you know, before the standard rotation was simply because of how abysmal its matchup into the Pirate Warrior was, and we just saw it right there. Without running
the new card Grievous Bite.
Grievous Bite.
That kind of acts as a mini turn 2 Maelstrom portal that doesn't give you the minion.
Right.
Hunter really has very few ways to interact with the early board when the warrior has a weapon equipped.
All right, so UH Victoria, they threw me for a loop with that warrior. I was not expecting necessarily the pirate warrior. It is super strong, so I mean, I'm not surprised, but I was expecting them to go for that taunt because the shaman, priest, warlock, warrior lineup to me looks like, hey, maybe we're going to go full control and just try to play that version of where we saw the meta going, because maybe our games yesterday were a little slower than we imagined. So I'm very curious as to what this warlock is going to be. We've got two major variants. I guess we have that Zoolock and the Handlock that we saw earlier today. And if they played the Silence Priest, maybe they're in league with that Handlock as well.
Maybe. I wouldn't be too surprised to see the Zoolock, the Zoo Handlock coming out, just because it's been so popular in this meta so far. So, but we will have to see.
All right. So keep in mind, again, that all of this is for a huge event. These guys are moving on to Santa Ana, California if they win this series, and they will be joining Rutgers and L'École Polytechnique de Montréal and Colorado State and Shawnee in those live championship finals. So if you want to join them and watch all of them compete live, go to compete.tespa.org/Hearthstone. Buy your tickets. That's $12 for 1 day, $20 for 2, and you get a whole bunch of perks, not least of which is that Dalaran Flame card back, which is just so pretty that I think pretty much everybody wants that one.
Yeah, no. I mean, the Dalaran Flame card back, just such a rare card back. You know, you're always kind of jealous when your opponent kind of plays it against you, and you're just like, man, I wish that I would have the opportunity to get one of those card backs as well. So great opportunity there. Going to be a great event, large community event. You know, just play some Hearthstone, have some fun. Just going to be awesome. Yeah, because when you see that Dalaran Flame card back, you know that guy got his tweet read on air, and that is exactly what's going to happen here. We've got Hibiscus Queen NA is going to grab a Dalaran Flame card back for this one. How did you prepare for your casting debut? I'd be so nervous. That was an understatement for me yesterday. Definitely. Preparing is very, very difficult when the circumstances are so different. You can never really prepare for casting live. Yeah, no, you just got to learn from every experience that you're given and keep improving. And it's just about anything in life, just kind of working hard and doing what you need to do to just improve and get where you want to be. So we've worked really hard and really happy to have the experience to be here right now with you guys and the whole Tespa Collegiate team here. Absolutely. So, Hibiscus Queen, thank you for that tweet. You will be getting that Dalaran Flame card back. And if you would like to join her in getting that Dalaran Flame card back as well, you can tweet at Team Tespa or go to facebook.com/Team Tespa. Go ahead and send something there. And if it gets read out on air, you will be receiving that card back, which is just, as we've been saying so many times, absolutely fantastic. Absolutely. Congratulations once again. And really looking forward to seeing what the rest of today has in store, and what the more games that we have in store for today. Yeah, so these teams are currently trying to decide what decks they are going to bring into the next match. Of course, for UH Victoria, it's a pretty easy answer. They're bringing that Warlock either way, but when you're over UT San Antonio, you need wins with that Hunter, you need wins with that Murloc Shaman, and I still believe they have a Warrior as well. Yeah, so against the Warlock, I would probably go with the Warrior if they do decide to bring the Pirate Warrior. Okay. I would imagine that would have a pretty strong showing into the Zoo, unless we see Lakari Fellhound make a large showing, being that large 4-mana 3/8 taunt. Right. Could actually swing the matchup in the Zoolock's favor, but Pirate Warrior, just a really solid dominant deck, and we'll have to see if that's the deck that they chose to bring. Yeah, and a lot of times, too, that we have to bring up the fact that there are now kind of two discard locks, or not two discard locks, there's two Zoo locks out there. There's that discard lock, which is running usually 2 Lakari Fellhounds and 2 Doom Guards, and we've seen that high roll, and you get a bunch of damage on the board, and the discards are perfect. You get some Malkazar Zimps and some Silverware Golems, but if you don't happen to chain all that right, a lot of times you end up discarding some very, very high value cards, and that's why we've been seeing that other variant today. But yeah, no, and as we said, UT San Antonio, San Antonio has the 3 decks remaining that they still need to beat that Warlock with. Do you think that the Murloc Shaman or the Midrange Hunter that we have seen so far has a chance to, get a win off that Warlock?
If it is Zulok, I think the Murloc Shaman actually has a decent showing into that because they're both going to be early board. But the Warlock has to tap to refill his hand, while the Shaman kind of does it naturally with their quest, and then Big Fin coming in to really give them those cards. We're going to see maybe if UT San Antonio can push this game, push this match rather, farther into the series so we can see that Hunter versus the Warlock matchup. But in the meantime, we are going to be seeing a Quest Warrior looking like a tempo Quest Warrior. That slam is a bit of an indicator to me. And over on the other side, looks like pretty standard discard lock.
Yeah, we do have the Firefly coming out for the discard lock. You know, a pretty cool inclusion. It does give you that extra minion in your hand to continue solidifying your board presence. And looking over at the hand for UT San Antonio, we do see that Armorsmith and the Slam, cards that we typically see more often in a tempo-oriented version, but we'll have to see as more cards are drawn off the top which variant it actually is going to be. And just speaking of which, the Armorsmith over here, 2 mana, 1/4, gain armor whenever a friendly minion takes damage, and that can be a really solid card into some of the more aggressive matchups that we've been seeing here today and this weekend.
Yeah, not a card we've seen for a little bit, of course, because Warrior has been Pirate Warrior for so long in our memories, but it's nice to see it coming back and getting some recognition now that the taunts are in play. So it looks, yeah, we're still kind of up in the air on this Warrior as to which direction it's going. You know, this could go still very full top end and just be cycling a little heavier than most of the Warriors we've been seeing. But maybe that's a good thing, because if you're not running the Curator in the Taunt Warrior deck, it's very easy to run out of card draw and just be sitting dead in the water.
So looking at the hand here for UH Victoria, they have a little bit of a slow start. You know, you want to be able to get a lot of aggression on the board early. That Crazed Alchemist not going to be doing a whole lot at the moment, kind of a tech card against the Doomsayer for more controller decks. And then you have the Soulfire and that Doomguard available for later in the game. But that Abusive Sergeant are going to allow them to completely fill out their curve here and drop alongside the Voidwalker as well.
And that Crazed Alchemist, I would not be surprised if that came down at some point just to see a minor 1 or 2 plus to the attack damage of any of these minions, just because it looks like UH Victoria has one goal in mind right now, and that's to push as fast as possible. And with 2 5-mana taunts in UT San Antonio's hand, that seems like it's going to be the play they definitely want to be going with, because as soon as UT San Antonio hits turn 5, ooh boy.
Yeah, and with that draw of the Defender of Argus not being able to do anything really productive on their turn right now, they have the option, they could use that Crazed Alchemist, flip-flop the attack of that Armorsmith, and just trade that Abusive Sergeant in this turn and develop the 2-mana 2/2 here. They also have the option to Soulfire it, but at the risk of discarding some very important cards in their hand.
Armorsmith will die here, and board control remains over on UH Victoria's side. That second Fiery Warax will come into the hand to help it out, and, well, that's a pretty good draw, honestly, right here, because they needed something to fill out this curve. The Slam was going to do nothing other than take a minion off, and they presumably really want to use that for cycle in this instance.
Yeah, they have 2 very strong follow-ups next turn, the Direhorn Hatchling and that Alley Armorsmith, both very resilient taunts against board-centric aggressive decks. Going to choose to go with the Slam on the Crazed Alchemist and clear off that that little Fire Elemental, and that will make the Defender of Argus in the hand of UH Victoria absolutely stranded.
I was about to say this is playing around Ravenous Terror decks, and right on that 4-mana curve, I just clued into me as to why they were trading so heavily there, but definitely the right play. The top deck of Ravenous Terror decks would have been really bad if they had left a minion up.
Yeah, like we said, both Defender of Argus and Ravenous Terror decks require you to have minions on the board to get maximum value. You know, playing a 4-mana 4/4 just vanilla isn't exactly the play you want to be doing as the Warlock. You want to be more proactive, especially in this matchup. They've only been able to deal 6 life damage to UT San Antonio, and with this Armorsmith coming down, that will be the first proc of their quest, getting closer and closer to that Sulfuris. But in the meantime, it's just going to provide a beefy body on the board.
So with a taunt on the board for UT San Antonio and 2 taunts in hand that are, you know, both pretty decent, 6 health taunts, that's definitely formidable. UH Victoria, do they maybe have to transition to a slightly slower value game here? And, you know, they're not going to win necessarily the super fast push, but that Warlock hero power is a lot of value. If you thread that in a couple turns, maybe you can push ahead in cards and kind of grab the win before the Warrior is able to get a lot of traction in that quest that way.
UH Victoria going to throw down that Doom Guard and clear off the Armor Smith, and that's going to...
So much for that idea.
Yeah, they're going to give themselves a little extra presence on the board, and I think that's exactly what they need. They don't know it, but UT San Antonio's hand is cluttered with minions, and there is no removal spells such as the Executes and the Shield Slams and the Brawl. So they're going to just be relying on these you know, taunt minions. However, those taunt minions generally have low attack, the Bloodhoof Brave having 2 attack and the Direhorn Hatchling having 3. Not the best ways to contest the board here against UH Victoria's discard lock.
Right, yeah, that Doom Guard is an impressively statted minion, the 5 attack, but you know, you don't think about that 7 health a whole lot until you're playing against it and you're trying to take it down, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this thing is a monster. It's a freaking tank.
Oh man, I love that animation here from Elise the Trailblazer coming down, cutting through the jungle, and taking a sealed Ungoro pack and tossing it into your deck. So really love the flavor of that card. Going to come down, contest the Doom Guard, and this Defender of Argus is going to let a clean value trade come in here for UH Victoria.
Absolutely. Oh, or we're going to ignore the value trade and continue to play the aggro game. So it puts a little bit of the opportunity, I guess, for UT San Antonio to make something happen here. But I guess you were okay. So the big problem with, or the big potential problem with that play, I guess, is it doesn't play around Execute at all. The top deck Execute would have been really catastrophic for UH Victoria in that instance. Whereas if they had done the value trade, it would have just been a 6-1, and that would have felt a lot better into an Execute.
Yeah, but I also like the attack to the face because it's them being proactive. It's them playing to their outs. They have a Soulfire in hand. They've discarded the first Soulfire, so they still have a second Doom Guard left in their deck. And they're going to have to start getting around these taunts that are going to be coming up. We have the Bloodhoof Brave or the Primordial Drake potentially coming down on the next turn. Direhorn Hatchling coming out on this turn, so we will have to see how UH Victoria decides to handle this.
So many possibilities indeed, Gul'dan. And that is why UH Victoria is going to make sure that they consider them all and every card order. How much do they want to play here? They've got 5 mana, and that Ravenous Pterodex is going to come down onto the Direwolf.
A little bit of interesting sequencing of trades here. I believe they're probably going to want to Soulfire that Direhorn Hatchling so that they can push the face damage of the Doom Guard. We have the Ravenous Pterodex coming down here to get some value, unlike his first brethren.
Wind Fury was that first one, so that is a big draw here, but no plus attacks to combo with it perfectly.
Stealth could be a very strong option. Going to go with that Poisonous, and I actually really like that line of play because it does make it where he is able to get through any taunts on the following turn.
Absolutely. It makes UT San Antonio's turns just that little bit more awkward, and that is absolutely what they would like to do here over for UH Victoria, excuse me, who, speaking of UT San Antonio, continue to be in a bit of a rough spot here, yet to find one win in this series. They find themselves basically on the brink of defeat here, and that is just soul-crushing.
Yeah, no, they've just drawn minion after minion, taunt after taunt, and they have not seen any of the removal. And that's some of the issues that we've been seeing with this taunt control warrior, is sometimes it draws all the minions and their hand just looks extremely clunky, and then other times it just draws all of the removal, and then you can't be proactive on the board. And damn, that Doom Guard is going to be absolutely enormous.
Doom Guard comes through, and it is going to, wow, that Poisonous takes through, and the Doom Guard comes through to push through for some damage. We're going to tap, see what we get there. That's going to be a setup for the next turn, and UT San Antonio, they've got a couple taunts left still, so they have a hope. They're not out of this yet, but they're running out of cards, and once that happens, they are definitely in some trouble.
So here's the thing about the Doom Guard coming down. That means that UH Victoria has burned through both Soulfires and both Doom Guards. They're not going to have any real direct damage from hand outside of like Knife Juggler procs and very, very small damage from hand. So being able to solidify a solid taunt presence on the board, maybe that we might actually see Sulfuras being played this game just to be able to push damage and control the board a bit better. But Devilsaur Egg and the Darkshire Councilman going to be 2 very, very solid cards for UH Victoria to fight back for this board.
Absolutely. And taking a look at the ways they can sequence this trades, if they want to be a little risky, they can run that Doom Guard into the Bloodhoof Brave first. Oh, but they're not gonna play into a Knife Juggler proc this turn. Makes a lot of sense. And so they're just going to trade pretty pretty obviously here.
And we get to...
Golden Legendaries!
As you heard the announcer, that is one of everyone's favorite things and lines to hear. Golden Legendary coming, and we have the recursion. Elise the Trailblazer into the Ungoro pack into Elise the Trailblazer. But looking at some of these cards that they've gotten out of this Ungoro pack, that Meteor could potentially prove to be very impactful later down the road. Not sure if Hemet is exactly going to be the play here. It does eliminate the rest of their removal in their deck, but it does leave them with just a slew of taunts.
It's like the Elise into the Ungoro pack, into the Golden Elise. Elise has gone Super Saiyan, Galestrom. She's powered up and ready to go. The question is that going to be enough to steal a win off of UH Victoria? Because UT San Antonio, again, they need all 3 wins in a row to make it to that live championship, and that is going to be a long road in this game, in this series, no matter how you look at it.
So going to go with that slam, drawn to the shield block, a very good pickup for them. Meteor going to come down on that Doom Guard, clear off the remaining minion, and a Flame Imp off the top is not what UH Victoria wanted to see there.
We are through both Ravenous Pterodexes. We're through 1 Defender of Argus from the Warlock, so there's only a couple of cards left in UH Victoria's deck that is going to proc that Devilsaur Egg at all, for the most part. Until they find one of those, that's just going to be a 0-3 on the board, and not a whole lot going on for them there.
Yeah, no, the Devilsaur Egg going to sit on the board for a while, and ooh, the Juggler proc hitting the Bloodhoof Brave. That is going to allow him to punch through that Voidwalker right there. Shield block, as I said, going to let them cycle through their deck. Tar Creeper, a cheap taunt that's going to allow them to continually fend off the pressure here for from UH Victoria. But I have to imagine they're just going to be looking for brawls coming into the next couple turns. There are still 2 in their deck. Probably 2 shield slams as well as 2 execute. So the removal is still there, and they're just continually drawing taunt minion after taunt minion after taunt minion. Yep,
and if they had wanted to get... They're definitely prioritizing getting to those removals at this point, because you could have, if you wanted to, you had the option to lease the Trailblazer into the draw, and that would have given you one more card towards that pack. But all these taunts coming down this turn does mean the quest is completed. Sulfuras has been obtained for UT San Antonio in this game. Maybe has just been flipped on its head just a little bit.
We'll have to see if they get another large taunt to be able to combo with that, either their second Alley Armorsmith or that Direhorn Hatchling, or even the Direhorn Matriarch that came off of the first Direhorn Hatchling. So you get that 5-mana taunt, you play the Sulfuras, it changes your hero power, and you can use that the new Ragnar's hero power to start fighting back for the board. They have a pretty solid presence on the board right now. That Direwolf Alpha will allow the egg to be able to be procced, so that will add a little bit more threat to UH Victoria's board, but that just makes the brawl that much better here for UT San Antonio if they can draw it in the next couple turns.
Well, they definitely have a decent chance of doing so. I've never seen the Devilsaur come out of Devilsaur Egg. That is some really cool card art there. It's very colorful.
Dirty Rat coming into the hand, and that will just be a 2-mana 2/6 taunt because there are no cards in UH Victoria's hand.
Fantastic.
So no downside to the Dirty Rat at this at this stage of the game.
That is definitely a boon for UT San Antonio. Just being able to throw down 6 health of taunt is basically 6 health of heal at this point, because as you said, Gilstrom, very little, if no, direct damage left in UH Victoria's deck. So any taunt is essentially, in a way, kind of healing your face.
A lot of communication going on here on the player cam here for UT San Antonio. Very, dicey situation there. A game away from getting knocked out of this tournament, and there is a lot on the line here, so a lot of discussion going on, a lot of decisions to be had, and I have to imagine Sulfuras, do they play it or do they keep their armor, is on the top of that decision list.
That's a very interesting question, and it looks like Sulfuras will be sitting in the hand, at least for this turn. They're going to stick... Wow, throw down the Shivering Tempest. All right, we're going to get a random mage spell as a warrior. That's going to be pretty interesting. 7 cards left in that UT San Antonio deck, but of course they can always shuffle 1 more back in.
That much closer to finding the second Ungoro pack shuffled into their deck if they decide to do that. However, some of the cards that I'm pretty sure would be left in their deck are going to be, as we said, the Double Brawl. We're going to have that Direhorn Hatchling, the Direhorn Matriarch, and that Alley Armorsmith. So that is 5 of the potentially 5 of the 7 cards remaining in their deck. And at this stage of the game, I really wouldn't be sad to see any of those.
That's 5 of the 7. And if you think about double execute, that means that they're not running the shield slams with the shield block.
Hemet took all those away.
Of course. Of course.
And then we also probably have a second Primordial Drake, would be my other guess for one of the remaining cards.
However, I don't know why I thought that would have made any sense at all.
However, UH Victoria going wide on the board yet again, and with a 2-in-7 chance to find a brawl, UT San Antonio might have just found the swing that they needed to get back into this game.
All right, well, it is going to be a matter of hitting that 2-in-7 chance for that brawl. They find it. And so the matter remains of how is that going to pan out here?
Honestly,
and does it turn into a lethal? Because it very easy. Oh, actually no. That's we're there already. I was wondering if we were going to have to manage to brawl and then avoid the shot. But no, we have plenty of damage, and that means UT San Antonio is not going down without a fight.
Nope, that is going to be a win here for the Taunt Warrior for UT San Antonio, and it's going to bring the series up to a 2-1 in favor of the University of Houston Victoria. So going to a game number 4 here. I'm pretty excited. I was not expecting the Taunt Warrior, but it came through in the end here for these guys.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just crazy game there.
Crazy exciting series, and we have to see, they have, once again, we've seen them lose with the first 2 decks. We had the Murloc Shaman in game 1, and we also have the Mid-Range Hunter from game number 2.
Yep.
So those are the 2 decks remaining to beat this discard, or to beat the discard lock. So we said it before, do we think they can get through this series and will the discard lock be the weakness and the weak link in here for UH Victoria?
Right. So that is going to be the question, and that's going to be a tough one. It's discard lock, and the other version, we never really touched on it before, but the other version of that zoo lock that we've been seeing lately is just minion focused. It still runs probably double Doomguard, I would imagine, but that's about the only discards that deck is going to run. It's largely based around the board and the consistency of not having to proc the discards on the right targets the way that discard lock does have to.
So having gotten a chance to look at the discard lock deck over the course of this past game, we can kind of get a better idea of how it's going to fare into both the Mid-Range Hunter and the Murloc Shaman. So we saw techs like that Crazed Alchemist.
Right.
We did see 2 Devilsaur Eggs and 2 Ravenous Pterodax, but we did not see, as we said, the Lakari Fellhound.
Right.
So we'll have to see if they decided to include that into their list. That will be a very strong tech into the Murloc Shaman. However, not one that we had saw in that previous game.
Yeah, it's good into those fast decks, but for the zoo, a lot of times you just really want to increase your chances of pushing through all of the taunts that we've been seeing lately, and the Lakari Fellhound is not really going to do a whole lot on that end. Great defensive card, defensive Doomguard, great. It opens my versatility in the deck making, but I don't know how often I would like to see both Lakari Fellhounds and both Doomguards in the same deck. It's really hard to balance all those discards properly.
Yeah, really trying to get the maximum power out of both of those cards and trying to manipulate your hands and get a little bit lucky in that regard where you're not discarding one or the other, having a Doomguard discard a Lakari Fellhound or vice versa. So we'll have to see there.
Yeah.
Going back to potentially having that Shaman match versus the Warlock, we're going to, one of the benefits that the Shaman deck does have is that it has such a large board presence. And if it can get ahead on board and get those Murloc War Leaders online, those Cold Light Seers online, and buff the health of their minions, they're going to be in a very strong position having Maelstrom Portal and AoE, still in their arsenal, whereas the Discard Warlock does not have any AoE effects to be heard of.
Absolutely. So just to put this series all back into context for everybody, we've got University of Houston Victoria. They're up 2-1 over the University of Texas San Antonio, and they are playing for a chance to appear in the, well, actually not a chance, the guarantee to appear in that live championship final happening over in Santa Ana, California. And if you would like to join them and see exactly how it all turns out, do these guys carry through, who ends up number 1, well, head on over to compete.tespa.org/Hearhtstone and go ahead and grab your tickets. There's a whole lot of perks. We've got, of course, the card back we've been talking about, but there's a whole lot of other ones too. And this event is not going to be just, you're going to a concert or you're going to a League of Legends match or something where you just sit in stadiums and watch the match happening and then you go home. No, this is going to be a very interactive kind of a festival and a whole lot of fun for everybody involved.
Yeah, very exciting for anyone who is able to join community events, get to play some Hearthstone, have a lot of fun, and just, would be looking forward to it if you do have the opportunity to attend.
Absolutely.
So looking back at the decks, once again, University of Houston Victoria just having that discard lock remaining, University of Texas San Antonio having the mid-range hunter and the Murloc Shaman left. So we will have to see which deck UT San Antonio decides to bring to beat this Warlock.
That is going to be the question. Of course, they do have to grab a win with both of them. So
Very
it's
true.
just a matter of which one they want to try to grab that one with first. And UT San Antonio decides, you know what, we want to give Uniting the Murlocs another shot here. We want to summon Megafin and carry this one through. And I said this deck maybe has the early board control to contest the Zoo, and then that Megafin push may just be enough to close it out before the Zoo is able to get back on the board.
One of the downsides to playing Unite the Murlocs is you almost always want to play that card on turn 1, but that lets you not develop a 1-drop minion unless you're on the coin. So UH Victoria, if they do have a strong 1-drop, such as a Flame Imp or a Voidwalker, they will have the opportunity to get ahead on the board, and UT San Antonio might have a hard time taking it back.
That is definitely a good point to keep in mind. Those quests, you know, they have some big rewards, but the littlest cost of them is just that barrier cost of entry. You play 1 mana, you largely give up your turn 1. There's a couple of them that you can wait till turn 2, but you know, you give your opponent the opportunity to get onto that board first, just like you were saying. Unfortunately for UH Victoria, that is not going to be happening this game. See ya mid-game, UT San Antonio.
No, if we thought their hand was dead last game, their hand is... They do not have a single play until turn 2 where they're able to coin out the Darkshire Councilman. But the 1-drop is absolutely what they wanted to see here. UT San Antonio drawing a 2-drop Murloc, that Blue-Go Warrior going to come online, and with no real way for UH Victoria to interact with that, the Primal Fin Lookout will be getting value on the following turn.
Yeah, so that Murloc Tidecaller is not going to come down first. It would add a little more value because he does get buffed up a little bit as you summon Murlocs, but they just want to push that 2 damage, fill out their curve more evenly, and just start contesting that board because they can see here UH Victoria does have a bit of a heavy hand. When you pass turn 1 and then coin into Darkshire Councilman on turn 2 as a Zoo lock, man, does that give your opponent quite a read.
So Primal Fin Totem coming into the hand here for UC San Antonio.
Oh,
and
yes!
that card going to be shown over the Primal Fin Lookout, and that is because now UH Victoria has a choice to make. There are basically a couple threats here on the board here for UC San Antonio. That one Murloc that you see there on the left, that is going to continually grow as Murlocs get pumped out. And then you also have the Primal Fin Totem, and that will once again keep pumping Murlocs out. So a large variety of threats. Primal Fin Totem, not a card that a lot of people were expecting to see a lot of play, but a very strong card as it allows you to diversify your threats on the board.
So they do decide to take that one down, like you were saying, because they don't want that grabbing any more attack. But in the meantime, that's going to let the Primal Fin Totem summon another Murloc. Gets him 1 step closer to that quest. And, well, you know, they haven't found all the Murlocs they need yet. So that is going to be a nice little benefit for UT San Antonio. They will happily take, I think, leaving that Primal Fin Totem up at this point.
So going into turn number 4 here for the Warlock, UT San Antonio has to decide what 4-drop are we playing around. There, once again, we have the Defender of Argus as well as the Ravenous Pterodax.
And that is terrifying to consider this turn.
That is absolutely terrifying. So going to choose to go with a Totem. That Taunt Totem will be strong for allowing that Primal Fin Totem another turn on the board to get value. Rockpool Hunter, one of the more unique Murlocs that have come out of this set. A 2-mana 2/3, very solid stats for a Murloc card. Used to seeing the Murloc cards with a little bit lower stat line, and being able to buff a minion up by 1/1, that's going to allow for a clean trade into the Darkshire Councilman.
This Devilsar Egg would be the only target of the Defender of Argus if UH Victoria decided to throw that one down. So I'm thinking that's probably not going to be the play. Plus, if you throw down just the 2-drop and the double 1-drop here, the Malkazar's Imp may stay on the board, helping out those Doom Guards just a little bit, get you to cycle through your deck. So we're going to have to see how much UT San Antonio wants to trade, how much they want to continue to push face here. but they have that Maelstrom Portal in hand, so that's going to help a little bit.
Yeah, I have to imagine they're going to want to continually fight for the board and just continue getting as many Murlocs as they can, because Megafin is going to be the premier card to be looking out for in the next couple turns. You see these Murlocs coming off the top are really low value, the Grimscale Oracle, the Primal Fin Lookout. With the Warlock hero power being able to continually replenish their resources, the Shaman will run behind fairly quickly unless that quest is activated soon.
Ooh. Double-edged sword here, if I have ever seen one. That Cold Light Oracle may get you to that quest a bit faster. Actually, will almost definitely get you to that quest a bit faster, but you almost never want to give extra cards into a Zoolock. So, that Blowgill Sniper, maybe just add a little bit of utility to your hand?
Yeah, the Blowgill Sniper, typically not a strong card, but being able to interact with the board is very, very strong in the board-centric matchup. Cold Light Oracle, great card, potentially against control decks, where you're looking for the, sometimes they just have a lot of cards in your hand and you can overdraw them. But in this matchup, as you said, you really don't want to give cards over to the Warlock if you don't have to. You want to make them pay for it with that hero power. Oh,
goodness. That Tentacle of N'Zoth will make the Knife Juggler procs very interesting to watch here, because one of those hitting that tentacle takes a few things off of this board, including that Knife Juggler itself. Direwolf Alpha. Oh man, so you want to play the Doom Guard, obviously. It's 5 mana, it's just an amazing card, but you have a pretty good chance of discarding your other Doom Guard. And that Direwolf Alpha or the Defender, I guess the Defender might be the play here, or you can do the Direwolf Infinite Attack. But the point I'm trying to get at here is it helps out that Devilsaur Egg, and that can feel pretty good this turn as well. UT San Antonio on that previous turn, prioritizing killing that Malchezaar Imp, knowing that turn 5 would most likely be a Doomguard turn going into UH Victoria's turn. So good read on them. However, UH Victoria, with that predicament of having both Doomguards in hand, it's really hard when you have to use one and discard the other. You lose a lot of the value that is in the discard lock deck. So Defender of Argus going to be the play, allow you to buff up that Devilsaur Egg and get a good trade and potentially even, proc it here in the next couple turns. That Defender of Argus will make it, basically made it so the Tentacle of N'Zoth wouldn't kill that Knife Juggler, even if that Knife Juggler proc had gone over to kill the Tentacle of N'Zoth. So definitely a good play for them there to buff that right up. But that point that you brought up, the Doom card discarding the Doom Guard and how much that hurts the Warlock, as we go on into this game, it's only seeming more and more likely that that's what's going to happen. They're playing more cards from their hand. They're just going to be left with the double Doom Guard. And at that point, it's obviously pretty guaranteed. So a little curious here. The Blowgill Sniper deciding to go onto the Knife Juggler instead of killing off the Devilsaur Egg. They did have the very clean trade with the Primal Fin Lookout into the second half, the Devilsaur that comes out of the egg. So choosing to go with the Knife Juggler, pass and keep that 6 damage on the board for a future trade. But we have to take note on Megafin finally coming online, coming in as the only card in UT San Antonio's hand, and that will give them the resources to fight back in this game. Yep, that is pretty much the perfect situation to have as Megafin, and the timing is perfect. And this was the reason that I really liked the Shaman quest when Un'Goro was released, and we started seeing basically just all of these Murloc Shamans on the ladder, and I was like, what is going on? I was not expecting this deck to be taking over, but the timing is just so good in this deck, such that so often you play your 10th Murloc as your last card at hand. It seems to happen almost every other game, or you're just left with a couple of cards in hand. So that's why I love this deck so much. It seems to do what it's meant to do almost perfectly. Yeah, a lot of strong synergies between the Primal Fin Totem and that call on the finishers, being able to summon Murlocs instead of being required to play them. You almost always get that Megafin on turn 5 or turn 6, but Doomguard discarding the Doomguard, we could not stress that enough. That is going to deplete the resources in UH Victoria's hand, and while they have the board for now, they know Megafin's coming down this next turn. This is going to be the big swing right here. What do we get, and how long can it last UT San Antonio? They now are fighting against the Warlock hero power, essentially, of UH Victoria, and it is going to be a race to the face in a few different ways in this game. Double Finja feels like a bit of a low roll there. I don't know. They have a lot more impactful Murlocs than they did in the previous set.
both those Finges being able to pull more Morlocks out of their deck, and then they also have the Murloc War Leader. That is the premier card to be getting out of Mega Fin, just because you have so many Murlocs. Being able to buff them up just even a little bit, that and the Cold Light Seer are two of the really big cards to look out from that Mega Fin.
Such a difficult position here for UH Victoria, because your opponent is at 30 health and now has a full hand of cards. You're looking at very little resources to work with, and they have to make this decision. Do we start running face, or do we ever try to kill Big Fin to give ourselves some other turns? But then you basically have to find AoE, and I don't know if they're running any AoE at that point.
Nah, AoE not typically seen in the Zoolock lists. They're going to have to fight for the board for this one, but with a handful of resources here for UT San Antonio and nothing in the hand for UH Victoria, it is going to be an uphill battle if they have any hope of going through this game.
That Crazed Alchemist does not do a whole lot right here for pretty much any minion. I can't imagine you're going to want to make Big Fin any tankier. But that Soulfire, I think we should mention, went to Mega Fin, and so that's not 4 damage going to face. I can't really fault it by any means. Of course, you at some point you have to take care of all these giant minions on the board. It is just seeming like there are very few outs here for UH Victoria because of all of the value T San Antonio got from that Mega Fin.
Gonna have some good value trades here, being able to clear off both the Direwolf Alpha and the Crazed Alchemist with any kind of buff coming from that Murloc War Leader in the hand. Cold Light Seer going to continually bump up any Murloc, so I have to imagine the Murloc War Leader, the Cold Light Seer, and that Murloc Tidecaller hitting the board and just creating a giant board of Murlocs and just overrunning the Zoolock. And that's not really a phrase we hear every day.
No, overrunning the Zoolock is not something that happens all the time, but it was something that I was looking to happen in this matchup, and I didn't know if it was going to happen all the time because both of these are so contentious, and a big reason we have to talk about that this went so well for UT San Antonio was UH Victoria's super heavy starting hand.
Yeah, the opening hand for them, no 1-drop. They had to coin into a 3-drop. Didn't even have a solid 2-drop to speak of. UT San Antonio just going to clear off the full board, and with a Direwolf Alpha coming into their hands, that looks like it's going to be game. The Voidwalker going to come down and be a slight nuisance here. But the Surrender going to come through, and that's going to tie up the series, 2-2.
All right, 2-2 in the Battle of Texas to see who is going to be representing them at that grand final, the live championship of the top 8 for this tournament. So, game number 5 is going to be that Warrior versus that Warlock, and I don't think we know what that Warrior is yet 100%, do we?
No, it's going to be the Hunter.
Oh, the Hunter. That's right. Of course. We got the win with the Warrior earlier, so it is going to be that mid-range Hunter that we see coming on back.
And I imagine it's going to have a very similar difficulty as it did against the Pirate Warrior, where that Hunter is going to have a challenge getting on board early against the Zoolock. Some combinations of cards to look out for if they're running Knife Juggler and specifically Unleash the Hounds. Unleash the Hounds can definitely do some damage and some work onto the discard Warlock's board. And with that being the major swing turn there for the Hunter is going to need to get a seriously good draw, getting onto the board early, and we're going to have to, University of Houston Victoria is going to have a dead draw if University of Texas is going to hope to win this next match.
We're going to have to see how that all turns out. Of course, the matchup only matters so much in Hearthstone. A lot of it comes down to the cards, and a lot of it comes down, of course, to how the players play it. And that is why we are here casting, and those guys are over there playing. Oh, actually, a little note here. I definitely butchered the name here. It is not, what did I say? Doi Free Tenyu? No, that's actually just a very interesting way of writing Do I Frighten You. So that is his name, Do I Frighten You. And, the first 2 games, they definitely did.
But yeah, so we are going into game number 5. It will be the Zoolock that we have been seeing the course of the last couple games, and we're going to be bringing it back with that mid-range Hunter here for UT San Antonio.
All right, back to sudden death. The Battle of Texas again for the live championship spot. One is going home, and one is moving on to fame and glory. Both, absolutely both, fame and glory. And so, we're going to take a look at these starting hands because the early turns are just so important in this matchup. Alley-Cat into Scavenging Hyena sounds like an amazing start for UT San Antonio.
Yeah, no way for UH Victoria to really clear off these Alley-Cats outside of the Knife Jungler, and that will not be coming online for a couple of turns. So any card that they throw down, that Scavenging Hyena will be able to hit the board and grow and grow and grow. The only issue that I have with UT San Antonio's hand is, what do they do after that?
Yeah, that is definitely a little bit of a concern. Hopefully that Scavenging Hyena is enough of a swing that they can get through a couple of turns with maybe just the hero power, but Crackling Razor Maw on top of a buffed up Scavenging Hyena. This has some serious high roll potential, Galestrom.
Oh yeah, Divine Shield coming through, potentially getting extra health. This Scavenging Hyena could be absolutely enormous on the next turn here. And what does UH Victoria have to answer with it? It's either going to be Knife Juggler, coin out the Possessed Villager. You could coin out the Darkshire Councilman.
Crazed Alchemist? That is so difficult. Of course, you're not playing around, really, the Crackling Razor Maw coming out of UT San Antonio's deck, but if that 6-4 gets Wind Fury, this game is all but over almost.
So we are going to see the Knife Juggler alongside that Possessed Villager that will let them get value potentially out of either the Darkshire Alchemist on the following turn and especially that Abusive Sergeant. So Darkshire Councilman just going to be eaten up by the Scavenging Hyena, so definitely like this play here for UH Victoria.
Going to see exactly how this adaptation works out here, or if they decide to go for it at all. I have to imagine it is pretty tempting. There's this game could essentially be over right here. That I like this a lot. You attack first, you give up the potential of a +3 attack or a +1 attack, but it's better with the stealth, and it's better if you get, or it's the same if you get Wind Fury.
Yeah, so a couple little weak options here. Poison is not going to be doing anything, as it could have killed everything on the board here for UH Victoria anyway. Can't be targeted by spells or hero power. That's great if you're expecting to be hit by a Soulfire,
right,
which is a very, very real possibility being a 6-4 minion. So
yes,
would not be surprised if that came down. Volcanic Might, another consideration. +1/+1, making that a 7-5. Very reasonable as well.
All right, the 7-5 will not save the Scavenging Hyena this turn, unfortunately, because of that Abusive Sergeant. And actually, you can even, no, you don't. I was flirting with the Crazed Alchemist idea, but that is just a bad idea. So they're not going to do that. When UH Victoria very likely just going to trade right into the Scavenging Hyena, take it off the board while making sure they get a couple of Knife Juggler procs along the way.
Yeah, so a little unfortunate for that first proc hitting the Scavenging Hyena now. You know, they have the opportunity to trade the Possessed Villager and have a potential for that the Knife Juggler proc off of the Death Rattle.
Going for more procs.
To potentially hit that Hyena. So we're going to go for another proc, see what it hits.
Wow.
And it hits the Hyena. And that was best case scenario for them. This third proc's going to hit the face, and we're going to see a value trade here. Yeah.
Definitely considering that one for quite a bit there. The turn 4 play could have been Houndmaster. And so they absolutely, definitely a good play there to trade into. They got to keep in mind the big plays that you're looking out for, no matter what deck you're playing against. And against Hunter, it's that Houndmaster. Against Warlock, it's that Ravenous Pterodex, which fortunately for UT San Antonio, UH Victoria has not come across this game yet.
Yeah, UH Victoria, the last 2 games have had that 4-drop in the hand, either the Defender of Argus or that Ravenous Pterodex. This game, no such luck. You know, they do have that option. The Crazed Alchemist not going to do basically anything in this situation, so they could develop the Darkshire Councilman. That will be very weak to the kill command that is in the hand of UT San Antonio. Or they have the option to continually life tap, gain some of that extra card economy, develop the Knife Juggler. But sitting at 19 life against a Hunter, you got to be feeling a little bit wary of your life total.
Yeah, and definitely makes getting onto the board in a strong way seem like a very tempting option for these guys. But the Knife Juggler holds in its card text the ability to make these trades a little cleaner for the Kindly Grandmother, maybe only having to trade 2 of these 3 minions in, and you get to fit in a tap as well. They're going to actually draw last here, unless they're throwing the Crazed Alchemist in here as well. Although at this point, you know, maybe you are just throwing this down for tempo. Okay, yeah, we're going as wide as possible. Hunter doesn't have a lot of really good AoE spells. We saw 1 explosive trap today, but none to speak of here.
Yeah, got the nice trade. You know, the Crazed Alchemist not getting any benefit off the battle cry, but hitting the board just as a minion, gives the Knife Juggler an extra proc, and that's going to leave that Abusive Sergeant up on the board, not having to have been traded in. So UT San Antonio, a couple different options here. That Tundra Rhino has to look very tempting. Utilize their whole mana, get that Knife Juggler off the board. However, probably fearing the potential Doom Guard coming out of the hand of UH Victoria, but not going to make its appearance.
Nope, that is just going to be a Soulfire. Probably... Well, I don't know if that'll come down this turn or not. Could be pretty safe just to hold that in hand, throw a tap and a Darkshire Councilman down. In the meantime, though, UT San Antonio is shaping up, in my mind, to take this game. That Savannah Highmane is going to be quite formidable, and they have a lot of hand damage left to do. All they have to do is just get a few more pieces of damage onto UH Victoria's face before this game really starts to spiral out of control.
Yeah, it all is going to come down to the next couple draws here.
Yeah.
UH Victoria really needs to find extra damage. They have 22 life to get through. Defender of Argus could be a very large draw. The Ravenous Pterodax potentially getting taunt, but that lowly Malchezaar Zimp and no discard effects is going to be rather dead. Forced to life tap, going to find a second Soulfire off the top. Not going to get the extra draw off the Malchezaar Zimp, but basically 1 mana, 4 damage, and that will be able to potentially either chip down the Highmane or allow them to pressure the face as much as possible, and I have to imagine that that is what they are discussing right now.
Yeah, that is a very important consideration. How much face damage is this Hunter running, and how much can we afford to ignore that Savannah Highmane? I always forget about the fact that you wouldn't get a draw here off of that Malchezaar Zimp. Of course, you have to actually discard a card in order to get the proc off of the Malchezaar Zimp, and that would not happen in this case, as Soulfire is the last card in hand.
Yep, so still just, just still talking amongst themselves. The rope is going to start to burn. They will have to make a decision here very soon. Going to start throwing the minions to the face while they finish up their decision.
Not going to trade into that Savannah Highmane, so I imagine the Soulfire will stay in the hand to be able to proc next turn if that Malchezaar Zimp survives, and I can't imagine that Malchezaar Zimp being a very high priority right now for UT San Antonio. So UH Victoria going to get a little bit of value off of that card next turn.
So we have 8 damage in the hand here for UT San Antonio between that Eagle Horn Bow and the Kill Command. That'll be 6 on the board, and they're getting very, very close to being able to piece together some form of lethal.
They actually have 9 if you do Kill Command, Direwolf, and Hero Power.
Very, very true. So I have to imagine they're going to put more cards on the board.
Yeah.
The thing is, that's probably going through their heads is there any way that UH Victoria manages lethal off this next draw on 2 cards?
That is that's a tough question. There's a lot of things that UH Victoria can draw here that put them in a very good position. Oh my gosh, this game is getting so close. I cannot believe that this is going to be the game that sends one team home after getting so far in this tournament. Every draw matters right here. Going to throw down that Eagle Horn Bow, make sure we get all the damage over the course of 2 turns, and this is UH Victoria basically do or die this turn.
So chose not to throw down that Direwolf Alpha, wants to threaten the Hero Power. That's going to leave their opponent at 6. And that will be the game here for UT San Antonio unless UH Victoria can find lethal this turn. We have
or tap into like a defender. Oh, no. No, there's so much hand damage that, yeah, Defender of Argus is not even going to scratch that at this point.
Yeah, keeping the Direwolf Alpha in hand lets you play the Direwolf combo with the Kill Command for that 5 damage, and that Hero Power will be able to finish it off. And
so they have 7, 11 with Soulfire, 13 if they play both Fireflies. So that leaves them with 4 mana, 2 to tap. What are their outs? They need 3 damage off of 2 mana at that point. Okay, so they're not going to play the Fireflies, actually. They're going to use that as the discard, and I almost would have liked to see them tap first, but in the end, it's not going to matter either way.
Yeah, getting the extra draw off the Malchezaar Zimp, you typically aren't going to want to play the Firefly in that instance. So, they don't want to expend the life total. As we said, Kill Command is a very strong out.
Right.
And with Voidwalker and the Direwolf Alpha, I do not believe that is enough damage for them.
Yeah, so the thing to keep in mind here is that obviously UH Victoria does not know the full extent, the reach from UT San Antonio. They have a pretty good idea. It is a Hunter. There's a lot of damage in the Hunter deck. But unfortunately for them, this is going to be a cut and dry lethal here for UT San Antonio, and they are going to be moving on to the Live Championships, sending themselves off to Santa Ana, California in just a couple of weeks. And if these are the decks that they brought now, they have a couple of weeks yet to shape it up and really level up this lineup.
Yeah, the reverse sweep here for UT San Antonio.
The reverse sweep
was absolutely huge. They were down 0-2 earlier in this matchup, and that Warlock choosing to be the linchpin deck here for UH Victoria. So, congratulations to UT San Antonio, and that will, as you said, they will be moving on to the live event over in Santa Ana.
The Battle of Texas has been decided. UT San Antonio takes it down and clinches that spot in the Live Championships for themselves. That is just so incredible for those guys. They are going to be playing in front of a live audience at this major event, professionally casted, and that's just, as a player who may not necessarily ever have the chance to go professional in Hearthstone, to have the chance to still experience all of that is just such a rush.
Yeah, absolutely. Just a huge experience for these players, and just, going to be a very memorable one as well. You get to go to the event and have a great time, play some Hearthstone, and just, congratulations to all the teams that have made it there so far, and really excited to see, who else is going to finish up that bracket today.
Oh man, so the discard Warlock, or not even a discard, it was kind of half and half, right? We didn't see any of the Lucari Fellhounds.
Yeah, I have to imagine those were omitted from the list in favor of that Ravenous Terror decks. So, some strong synergies there, but not quite working out for them in the end.
Yeah, definitely a more aggressive version of the deck, and maybe at some point during that series, a really beefy taunt might have helped them, because they were up against that very aggressive Shaman. They were up against that very aggressive Hunter as well. But just maybe not the right couple tech cards, or just not the right couple draws. That is so difficult for University of Houston Victoria. They came so far and put up such a great fight. They still are getting scholarship money, of course, from the Tespa Collegiate Series, but that experience in Santa Ana would have been amazing. And speaking of that experience, we are going to have a chat now with our winners, the University of Texas San Antonio. Hey guys, can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Man, guys, you sound pumped, and I can't blame you. Congratulations, you are moving on to the Live Championships in Santa Ana, California. How does that feel? How much are you guys looking forward to that?
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's
really,
gonna be
really
great.
cool. That comeback was great. Getting to 3 in a row. Really impactful.
Yeah,
we're pretty
we're
pumped.
ready now.
Absolutely. That is the 3-0. That is or not the 3-0, but the chance of being 3-0. There was a possibility, and that had to have been weighing heavy on your minds.
Yeah, the reverse sweep there. Great job to you guys coming back from that. What was going through your head over the course of the match, trying to, get back into it, both mentally and just over the course of the game?
I would definitely say that knowing that Murlocs are just the most powerful race ever, there's no loss. We had that game. We knew that.
Yeah.
But obviously, some good draws. We were fortunate enough to get there.
You certainly were, and that is going to be that is just going to be an incredible experience for you guys. I am so jealous that you get to play on that stage in front of that crowd. I do want to get one question in here about that lineup, because it was so interesting. Was this the lineup that you've been coming through the tournament with, or did you make a pivot from yesterday?
Yeah,
we did make a pivot because
we started with Murloc Shaman, because Elemental Shaman, it's very popular. I personally think that the meta is just so fast that it really doesn't get there a lot, especially with Quest Rogue. I don't see Elemental Shaman standing a chance. But Murloc Shaman, I haven't seen it too much, but I had a lot of success with it, for sure.
We also wanted to switch out from Pirate Warrior over to Taunt Warrior, just because Taunt Warrior is pretty great. I mean, all variants of Warrior are pretty amazing right now.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, both those warrior lists, very, very powerful. And great job, guys, adapting, choosing to go with that Murloc Shaman. That's a great read on the meta. The Quest Rogue kind of does its own plan over the course from, turns 1 through 4. And being able to put the pressure on really can get you ahead in that matchup.
Well, thank you guys for doing such a great job appearing on the stream here. Congratulations yet again. We are going to be making sure to keep an eye out for you over in Santa Ana. So good luck over there, and we will see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see you.
All right, so That's 5 finalists already in the bracket for that live championship. That is going to be a lot of fun. And if you would like to see which of those is going to take the crown, or if any of those could be a couple of the teams yet to qualify, head on over to compete.tespa.org/Hearthstone. You can purchase your tickets to the event there. It's one day for $12, 2 days for $20, and you are not going to regret making it over there. If you show up, just by showing up, you're going to grab that Dalaran Flame card back. And, well, if you can't make it there, or you got stuff going on that weekend, of course, you should have nothing more important than the live championship going on that weekend. But if you're not a local, you can always get that Dalaran Flame card back by tweeting at us at Team Tespa, or by going to facebook.com/Team Tespa. And if you get your tweet read out on air, you do receive that card back, like a few people have already today.
Yeah, that card back been entirely awesome. Go to the live finals and get your card back. Tweet at us, also get your card back. So lots of different ways to get that, and just
card backs galore.
Card backs galore.
All right, guys. Well, that is going to be the first set down, from the southern region. We've been through the east. We saw Rutgers and EPM qualify. In the north, we saw Colorado State and Shawnee. And now to fill out the south, we've got University of Florida coming up against Chapel Hill. And that's going to wrap up game number 4 for set number 4 for us. Set number 5 for us. Yes. So. We are going to toss it on over again to Dan Gaskin and Excoundrel, the dynamic duo from the UK. And in the meantime, don't go anywhere. Stick around. We'll be back in a few minutes.